Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today is our next Ultra Data video on the channel. I did a project like this earlier on in the season, just before the DLCs in Vegas and Birmingham, to basically look at the metagame for the past months from events of over 30 players, but not just seeing what deck combinations were doing the best, but having a really intricate look into the specific card counts in these combinations. Last time I only had time to do that for Steelsong and Ruby Sapphire, which were still far and away the most popular decks, but I really wanted to do it for more. This time I have managed to do it for 5. You've got Ruby Amethyst, Ruby Sapphire, Steelsong, Emerald Steel Discard, and EA Tempo Just Win the Game. So this video isn't going to be really about going through specific deck lists. We're just going to have a look through all of the data for the most popular decks and then specific card counts and what the most popular counts are for those cards. First of all, for sources, all of the information today comes from inkdecks.com. I've downloaded every deck list that fits my criteria and they're all in folders here. And then I've organized them by ink combinations so that I could count specific cards. That's a super long process, by the way. This has taken me ages. This is a picture of what my last couple of nights have looked like. But the last time we did this, a lot of the community seemed very grateful for it and was very much encouraging me to do it again. So here we are. Now, this is the last MetaShare sheet that I did. I'll show you the up-to-date one very shortly, but just for anyone that's new to Ultra Data, this is what it looks like. Basically, I've got all the events here that have been counted, the dates, and then the amount of players. So my criteria is over 30 players. I think there's one exception on here where it's under 30 players, and on the sheet I'm going to show you in a minute for current data, there are, I think, 2 exceptions that I made, but by and large, it's all events over 30 players. I've taken the top 8 deck lists, but if it was an event of 100 players or more, then I've taken the top 16 deck lists into consideration for our data. There are some events where not all the lists get uploaded. You can see in this column here, 8 of 16. This was 170 players, so I looked to take the top 16. There were only 8 of the 16 available. Same here for this 142 person event. I wanted the top 16, but only 6 were available. And then the view here, only 1 of 8, 1 of 8, 2 of 8. I'm up for feedback on in the future if I should count events if there's only 1 deck list available or only 2 deck lists available. I have done that for the data that we're going to look at today, but I'm totally up for that for feedback in the future. And then yeah, I've also listed here the decks that came at first or second. If there's nothing here, then none of the deck lists that are available came at first or second. Or in this case for Brotherhood, I think this was because they split top 4, and then here you see Red Saber Games, Ruby Amethyst, Ruby Sapphire in first and second. That's because they split finals. And then over here, I've got the full MetaShare, 244 decks looked at, how many times this ink combination topped an event, so top 8 or top 16 if it was over 100 players, and then how many times that deck came first or second. So that's the long-winded explanation out of the way. Shout out to those of you that jumped straight here. This is our current MetaShare. Now, this is the last month-ish. The events are taken from the 26th of September up until most recent events from up to the 20th of October. There is one event here that took place on the 19th, but it was only uploaded yesterday, and it's 173 players, and all the lists are there. So I would have really liked to have added these to the data, but I just haven't had time. But other than that, this accounts for every event in that space of time that has had over 30 players. You can see there are a couple of exceptions down here. Busby's cards, this had 29 players. I just wanted to get my number of decks up a little higher, a bit closer to what we did last time. And then here, Franza Gaming, 28 players. I think I just wanted to give Spain a bit more representation on the table. But yes, these are all the events that we've accounted for. I've added location to this graph. As always, please give me feedback on adaptations you would like made to these Ultra Data graphs in the future. Again, the amount of if it's blank, then we have all the deck lists for that event. And I think just to help myself as I was counting, I put 16 out of 16 for the 2 events that we were taking the top 16. But then here be the results. And as you can see, the most represented deck from top cuts in the last month of larger events is indeed Emerald Steel. This has jumped a lot, in particularly just in the last couple of weeks, which I suppose is no big surprise, especially it was really from Vegas that this deck has become repopularized again, and I imagine that some people are testing it a lot. Hopefully, I'm looking to play in Seattle. So yeah, a fantastic season for Green Steel, 40 tops and an awful lot of first and second places. Steelsong in second place with a really respectable record. Ruby Amethyst and a Ruby Sapphire in the third and fourth place. More Ruby Amethyst decks topping, but I'd say like a lot, well, over double the amount that won the events for Ruby Sapphire. So yes, it's still really well represented. EA Tempo, just as many decks as Ruby Sapphire. Not quite as good a performance, but almost. So another really good deck. Sapphire Steel, a huge jump from last season. I think with the rise of Green Steel, it absolutely leaves room for the Blue Steel players to come back out to play. We've got some Amber Emerald Under the Sea still performing super, super well. And the aggro Lemon and Lime version down here accounted for as well. 11 yellow Amber Amethyst aggro decks, which again take advantage of all the Ruby Sapphire that there's been in format, so it doesn't surprise me to see a bit of a bump here. Blurple with a respectable representation, a bit of Amber Ruby. I think majority of these are Mufasa builds, and then yeah, Amethyst Steel, a pretty disappointing month, I would say. I think this deck is better than is being represented here. I think this could make a super good run. And then one Ruby Steel, and then one Ruby Emerald, which is literally Spessy from the Ravensburger content creator tournament that he top 8'd with his Robin Hood deck. So yeah, that is the meta share. Obviously take a screenshot. I will make these sheets available on Twitter. And to be honest, everything I'm going to say in this video is just going to be briefly going through the sheets. I don't want it to be too long of a video. You can get all this information just from copying and saving the sheets for yourself, which I have no problem with. But I am going to just have a look through the ultra data I have for the specific counts. We'll go in the order dictated by the meta share. So yeah, Green Steel, 40 decks total that contribute towards this information. And then yeah, here are your graphs, here are all your characters. I have a bit of a mix of sometimes putting the cost or sometimes putting the initials of the sub name. At some point I want to actually add pictures, even if it's just in these rectangles along here, just to make it a little more easily readable. But yeah, this tick just means this is the amount of players that were using this card. So 39 out of 40 decks were playing Diablo Maleficent's Spy, I think that should be. Maybe it's familiar. I'll check and I'll change it. But nonetheless, 39 players playing the one-drop Diablo and so on and so forth. And then, yeah, this column will show you how many of those players were using 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. If it's blank, it either means it's 0 or it's super easy to work out. So you can see one player is playing the one-drop Mickey Mouse. I didn't feel the need to put here 39. A lot of it you can work it out yourself just by going down the sheet. But yeah, we come over here for more characters, and then locations. Hidden Cove, the location of choice for this deck combination. Actions, you're only seeing Hypnotize and Smash. One person playing, but only 2 people playing Smash. Hypnotize, very much the action of choice. And then the song list here, no surprises. And then a couple of items have come out to play. 1 copy of the Emerald Chromicon and 1 copy of the Prince John's Mirror. As you can see, there's a few bizarre one-offs here, and let's take into account as well that all this data also draws from set championships, again, as long as the event was 30 or more players, which is absolutely the sort of events where people are going to be jamming with some fun stuff, which can certainly add some data, which isn't necessarily as important. I'm not expecting many people to be running the Scar Vicious Lion or Vengeful Lion, the 4-cost one. But I've included them all on the graphs anyway. But yeah, of course, this data and data for all the decks, don't take this as gospel. Again, it's not necessarily going to represent every Green Steel player you come up against. But if you are someone who just likes to play the numbers, and when you're trying to make reads about what your opponent might have, and you just want to kind of play the move that matches the safest choice. Like, if most people are playing only 2 copies of Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, if you've seen 2, maybe you're willing to take that risk and make a move which could be punished by a 3rd Tinkerbell. If you're just someone who just likes to go by the numbers, then this could be absolutely something to take into account. And again, just to familiarize yourself with what are the most common counts for these cards. Showing just one deck list here, because this Sheriff of Nottingham is the only character that I have not included on the graph. This is the only deck playing him. This is obviously playing into the whole Beast Relentless combo. So I thought I'd point out this deck, but it is 1 of 40. And there is one other deck running Beast Relentless, just as kind of like a bit of a tech in Emerald Steel. But this is the only version running that Sheriff of Nottingham cheese. Let's go on and take a look at the Steelsong Ultra Data. So this is taken from 36 decks. The locations, just the Pride lands. One person was playing 3 copies of Pride lands, so that's very much fallen off. 1 copy of You Have Forgotten Me in one of these decks. Again, usually a Emerald Amber card, but one person deciding to tech this. The items are perhaps the most interesting to me. I'm not shocked to see only one person rocking 2 copies of Sleepy's Flute. That's very much fallen off, but I would have expected these lanterns to be a little more popular than this. Another observation about the characters is just how much the Queen line the Floodborn line has fallen off. Again, even at last DLC, it wasn't hugely represented, but a lot more than this. So yeah, that's not something we're seeing very much these days. A bit of an even split for the Ursula Vanessa. 19 of 36 players choosing to use her, 17 players choosing not to. So that seems to be one of the biggest splits between Steelsong players and their decisions. My biggest takeaway from this, honestly, is I'm just still shocked at 8 out of 36 players not playing any of the Cinderella style Hearted. There might be 1 or 2 where it's down to like they're not playing the Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. Maybe they've just got a different build of Steelsong. But if you're a fairly standard build of Steelsong with the Ballroom Sensations, then I would always be jamming at least one of these Cinderella style Hearteds. Prince Naveen, another one to take notice of. 31 out of 36 players choosing to use him. Only 8 players opting for those 4 that I know DeCandio has certainly advocated for, but 18, the majority choosing to run at least 3. Let's take a look at Ruby Amethyst, our 3rd most represented deck for top cuts in the last month. We've got 34 deck lists to take into consideration for this data. Some cheesy techs here and there. We've got the Maui Whale, the Camillo O Madrigal. 1 player still repping the Peter Pan Shadow. And 1 person using the Vanellope Random Roster Racer, I believe she is. She's a 3/3, and on play you get evasive until the start of your next turn. So it's uninkable, but a potential answer to Diablo, even at the Cove. 1 person playing this, Archimedes. I think it's Educated Owl. It's the 3-cost 2/2 quest for 2 with evasive. But yeah, concerning our more standard Ruby Amethyst cards, no huge surprises here. 34 out of 34 players choosing to use both the Fox, the Snake. 1 Mad Lad not playing the Merlin Rabbit. 31 Crabs, the most popular choice for counts of that being 23. No one playing 3, but we do have 4 players that are using the full 4. 6 Super Goofs, and I think this could be a super nice choice playing Ruby Amethyst over the weekend. Again, just the surprise value you can get off of this is pretty big. 29 players choosing to use Flynn Rider. Only 1 playing 2, 28 of them going for the full 4 count. And yeah, a little bit of variety in the 1-drops, but by far and away, expect to see Chernobog's Followers and Magic Brooms as your 4/4. But yeah, as you can see here, some people rocking the Cogsworth, Minis, Olafs, and Rafikis. Elsa the 5th Spirit, super popular in Ruby Amethyst at the moment. 29 out of 34 players choosing to use her. 12 players using 2, 11 players using 3, so expect to see a lot of her. And then Medusa and Tremaine count, which may be some of the most interesting for people. There was a point where Ruby Amethyst had kind of dropped Lady Tremaine. Not everyone, but like at least half the decks you wouldn't expect to see her. Not as a sure thing as Medusa. Very much not the case anymore. 31 out of 34 players choosing to use Tremaine. 19 using 2, 12 using 1. And then for Medusas, the majority, 17 players choosing to use 3. I think this is right. With the rise of Green Steel, there's even more targets for this. 15 players playing 2. No huge surprises here. A lot of players on the 8-drop Sisu, 20 out of 34. The vast majority are playing 17, but 3 people opting to play 2. We've got a handful of the 8-cost Elsa, which I think is viable if you're I think if you're running the 4 count of Elsa 5th Spirit, then that absolutely justifies an Elsa 8. Looking at locations, the library growing in popularity. Queen's Castle still the most popular one. 32 out of 34 decks opting to play the Queen's Castle, but 21 out of 34 using the library is pretty good. A bit of a mix of the counts. People still trying to find whether you want to say what's right or, again, just play a preference. Looking at the actions, nice high count of brawls here is no surprise. All 34 players using brawl. The vast majority going for the full 4 count. Some players opting to just play 3. And then Finders Keepers is one of my sleeper picks for the weekend. I've been super enjoying this in Ruby Amethyst at the moment. It's good in a lot of situations because, again, turn 5 for Ruby Amethyst so often is a reaction turn, either Maui or Elsa 5th Spirit. And if there is nothing to Maui or else of Spirit, or you don't find them, then I'm quite happy to play Finders Keepers. It's better into discard decks, gives you a better chance of being able to re-establish a hand. So yeah, I think even though this is only 4 of these players using this is a relatively new discovery, shall we call it. So I would expect to see a lot more Finders Keepers in Ruby Amethyst over the weekend. And then the song counts. Be prepared. The vast majority are on the 4 count at the moment. 10 players using just 3. And Be King Undisputed, where I'd expect to see it. It's still a super good card, but it's fallen off a lot. Only 8 players choosing to use it. 1 using 3, 5 using 2. So you may see a couple of Be Kings over the weekend. Taking a look now at Ruby Sapphire. I didn't take Basil off. I was sad to see him go. I mean, I get it. I don't think you should run Basil. But who knows? He might come back one day. But no one running Basil anymore. Also, nobody running the Emboldened Warrior anymore. Again, it was never a popular choice in Ruby Sapphire, but last metadata sheet we looked at, I think this was at about 5, but no one playing that anymore at all. The Queen Diviner, obviously related to those builds that are more item heavy, using cards like Maurice's Workshop, which is listed down here somewhere. 2 players using Maurice's Workshop, 3 players using Queen Diviner. So someone was using Diviner without a Workshop. Tipo, one of the most popular new cards for Ruby Sapphire. 28 out of 31 players choosing to use him, and 26 of them going for the full 4. We've got a couple of Cheechas in here, a couple of Scuddles, a couple of Gastons, which I do think is slept on. I think, like, from my time playing with Ruby Sapphire, I think if I was to go back and use it again, I think I would want, at least it matter as it is at the moment. I think I like the Gaston. A lot of players on the Tala. No surprise to see the full 31 players using Flavisham. No bells at all, at least from the data that I've taken. 1 Donald Duck. This is the 5 cost, the one that ramps. This is the Vanellope. I think for the other sheet I put Random Roster Racer. Here I've put the 4 to represent its cost. But yep, someone using this as an evasive answer. Maui's. This is something that you might want to pay attention to. Like, only 3 copies in the vast majority, which is probably enough. But if you are a deck that's using locations, then you're always keeping a super close eye on your opponent's Maui count. Although in red-blue, often if they're playing less Mauis, it's because they're playing 1 or more Scars. Only one of these decks choosing to use Tremaine, but obviously nearly all of them using Medusa at nice high counts. Aerial Treasure Collector, I've not seen any for this set of data. She's been there in the past, and she's a character that might pop up in some Ruby Sapphire decks. 1 Hades, only 5 players using Scarfish's Cheetah, I do think is low. I think this Cheetah is super good. 3 players choosing to use the Big Bad Mufasa, Ruler of Pride Rock. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me that this card has fallen off so much. I think it's far too slow, and sometimes it's counterintuitive. High count of 8 drop Sisu here, and again, a count that you might want to pay attention to for 15 players using 3, 12 players using 4. Tamatoa, the full 31. Every single one of these decks are playing 4 copies of Tamatoa, no shocks there. Maleficence, only 12 players using 4, 15 using 3. McDuck Manor, only 1 copy from this data, but I think this is something that you may see a little more of over the weekend, along with Finders Keepers. It's my sort of like card to look out for that I think could perform really, really well. Some people still using Develop Your Brain along with the Vision of the Future, just to give you better odds to find the pieces that you need, help you get through that deck. An awful lot of players using Hideaway, the vast majority going for the 2 count at 12. Lots of Brawls. Most Ruby Sapphire players only feeling the need to play 3 copies of Brawl, usually because they're running the Sisu devoted, Daring Visitor, or just earlier access to Medusa, so no surprises there. And then the songs, again, no surprises, a couple of Let It Go's, a couple of Teeth, but high counts of a 1 jump, Be Prepared, and How Far I'll Go. A lot of players moving to just 2 1 jump ahead. I think just to get, like, against Emerald, you can really be punished for holding songs or drawing back into them if you mulligan too aggressively. I learned very much the hard way. I was running 3 1 jump, and I think in the future, again, meta as it stands, I would probably go to the 2, because it's still super good. It can be really important, but yeah, it can be a dangerous card to have in your hand. And then the items here, high counts of Ice Block, most players choosing to run 3 these days. A few Vitalispheres and Ruby Chromacons, no surprise to see the max of Porpsicles. A few Great Stone Dragons, certainly rising in popularity, the way that you can ramp without depleting your hand. Lots of Quills, couple of Workshops, as I said. A few of these one-offs like Shield of Virtue, Maui's Fishhook, Fan Crossbow, also certainly growing in popularity. I think even this 8 is maybe low and not well representative of what I expect to see this weekend. I would expect a lot of Ruby Sapphire players to be playing at least this one Fang Crossbow. I think it's grown a lot in popularity as of late. And then the Lucky Dime, the vast majority going for the full 25. One person choosing to not play Lucky Dime, and I do believe that was the Wafu Tapa over in France, the same person that was not playing Go and the person that had kind of has popularized Finders Keepers. And then the final Ultra Data sheet to take a look at, we've got some EA Tempo Just Win the Game. This is that deck that, you know, I think is the hardest to, with a lot of decks, once you see the 2 ink colors, quite often you know the 60, there might be a couple accounts that you won't be certain of, and maybe they've got 1 or 2 spicy techs that are options, that like super goofs, things like that. But with EA Tempo, it's such a large range of characters that they tend to play, and like different sorts of, I say different sorts of EA Tempo decks. They're all doing similar things, but again, like, I think the consistency in what characters they're playing and the counts is not consistent, let's put it that way. So lots of options on this sheet. For the 1-drops, Curse Merfolk, super popular. Obviously the 1-drop Clarabelle, because a lot of players are trying to, well, I say trying to, they are making good use of the Floodborn Clarabelle to refill the hand. 30 of 31 players choosing to use the Floodborn. Only 29 players using the 1-drop. Someone's playing the 7-drop without a 1-drop. That may be the person that's playing this 1 copy of the 3-drop Clarabelle down here. But nonetheless, a lot of these sort of toolboxy one-offs. We've got the Rafikis, the Brooms, the Olaf, Cogsworth, Pegasus, Little John as well, just with that bigger body. No surprise to see the Ursula 2s. Morphs are not as popular in EA Tempo as they have gained popularity in Green Steel, but still 1 here. A lot of Sir Hiss. This is probably one of the bigger decision points for EA Tempo players. 17 choosing to use Sir Hiss, 14 choosing not to. Similar to the 1-drop Pegasus, actually. That's a bit of a split between players that are either that choosing to use Pegasus or not. 3 people using the Peter Pan Shadow Finder, again, as a potential answer to Diablo. A lot of Lyle Tiberius Rorks in here. Some Arnas. The expected sort of counts for crabs, goats, rabbits. Only 1 Madam Elephant is a bit of a surprise. I think this gives you a bit of a better steel matchup. Elsa the 5th Spirit, very popular in this deck, just as much as Ruby Amphibian. Well, more so, really. I think she's good in both, but I think she's really, really good in this deck. Quite a few people choosing to use the Bell, Accomplished Mystic, I believe is her full name. Few Yzmas, 1 copy of Genie on the job. The Ursula 7-drop, pretty much completely staple at this point. 29 out of 31 players choosing to use her. 22 of them choosing to run 3. A fairly close split here of Queen's Castles and the Library. Also a couple of people choosing to play that Hidden Cove. One of these decks running We Don't Talk About Bruno, but the vast majority running Friends, and then over half choosing to use You're Welcome as a nice bit of removal, super flexible. And then 5 players choosing to use the 1 copy of Emerald Chromicon, which I do think is a super good shout in this deck. So yeah, that is all of the Ultra Data. It's taken a long time to put together. I'm not leaving it so late to do it next time if I do it again. Again, let me know if you want me to keep doing this. I'm happy to do it, but like the amount of time it does take, I do need to see these videos performing fairly well. So if you do appreciate this sort of data, please hit the like button, interact with the video in some sort of way. And again, feel free to save them, download them, share them. As soon as I put this video out there, perfectly happy for anyone to just share these sheets around as you see fit. But yeah, I hope this was useful. To everyone that is going to Seattle, good luck. I've got serious FOMO. I'm so gutted that I can't go, but if I did, it would have broken the bank, and I really want to go to Worlds next year. I'm hoping that I'll be working it, but as it stands, I've heard nothing about working it. So if that's not the case, then I can't miss the first World Championship. So if I went to this, there's no way I would have been able to do that. But nonetheless, I can't wait to watch it. Good luck to everybody. This video is going out Wednesday evening. On Thursday evening, we will have our next group podcast. Not going to tell you the guests, we've already filmed it, you'll see it tomorrow. Then Friday, we'll be back to card reviews, and of course, if you're competing in more set championships before the end of the month, do please keep sending me those deck lists. And we'll do another coverage video at the end of the month, and then an extra one specifically for the juniors. But that's going to be it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.